Our next guest, promises and proposes to do something about it. We're now joined by California gubernatorial candidate, the former president and CEO of eBay, Meg Whitman. How are you?
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Just as a side note, my 8-year-old daughter was on eBay the other day, just so you know.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, yes and no. We've got to ask this question because Arnold Schwarzenegger's a Republican. Arnold Schwarzenegger got elected. We know what happened with Gray Davis. Where do you think things went wrong as far as the economy goes in the state of California?
We lost our fiscal discipline. We spent more than we took in. And that is the nub of the problem. And today we have a $20 billion budget deficit, 12.5% unemployment, an infrastructure built for a population half our size. We got to get back to basics.
Right. I love back to basics because in my own life, whenever I find I'm a little off track here or there, I always want to hit the reset button, as I say, and go back to the fundamentals. And I think this is simple. If anybody in this audience, if they were having some fiscal difficulty, you would spend less, right? And you try and bring in more money. Governments never seem to do that. But all right, so Governor Schwarzenegger tried these proposals. One of the great things about California, you can have a referendum and you can have an up and down vote. You have propositions. He put it to the public and the public voted him down. Did that hurt his effort to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish?
It did hurt his effort, but in fact what needs to happen now is we've got to focus on getting three things done. We first have to put Californians back to work. If we do not decrease the unemployment rate in California, I promise you there is no way out of this mess.
What's the unemployment rate now?
12.5%, fourth or fifth highest in the country. And for perspective, that's 2.3 million Californians without a job. That's more population than 15 states have.
No, and it's a problem. And I got to tell you, states like New York and New Jersey and around the country, they're facing similar fiscal problems. The question is, how do you do that? How do you go up to Sacramento, where there has been nothing but cronyism, you know, that makes Nancy Pelosi look morally upright? You know, honestly, how do you get state assemblymen and senators to agree that they've got to do the right thing and balance the budget? How do you do that?
Well, first, as I said, I think it is about focus. In a crisis, you cannot go to Sacramento and what I would call boil the ocean. You got to focus on a small number of things. And in the end, Sean, this is about leadership. You got to stand up and you got to stand for something. And I'll make a couple of observations. One is something no one talks about is the appointments process in California. The governor gets 3,000 appointments. For perspective, the president of the United States gets 3,800. And those top 300.
By the way, it's 3,800 way too many. But go ahead. You know, that Cass Sunstein was not Van Jones and Kevin Jennings, not good choices.
Well, my first question is, could we do with 1,500 appointments? But in any case, those top 300 are essential. They're your agency heads, your department heads, and I did not run eBay by myself. I won't govern California by myself. This is essential to get the right people. And then you've got to use the veto pen. We have a very powerful veto pen in California. We have line item veto, as well as it requires a 2/3 majority to overturn a gubernatorial veto.
I like a business background because you actually had to meet a payroll. You actually had to pay health care benefits. You actually had to produce a product that people wanted and needed and obviously liked a lot in eBay. You know, when Reagan was president, he actually commissioned the Grace Commission.
Yes.
Some of the best and brightest business minds in the country. And he said, come up with a plan how we can run government more like a business. And what was fascinating about that, they came up with some great ideas. The country adopted none of them, but they came up with great ideas. Do you think politically it's possible, knowing the environment, that both in Washington and in Sacramento?
I do think it's possible because people have had it. I will tell you, I travel all over this state, and people are so ready for a different direction in Sacramento. The legislature... The legislature has a 9% approval rating. I mean, we are literally down to blood relatives.
By the way,
and paid staffers.
Harry Reid is lower, 8%. And Nancy Pelosi's winning. She's got 11% favorability rating. You got to watch out. She's really way up there.
But I think Californians are ready for a change, and they are ready for a focused approach. They want the fundamental business climate to be changed. And you said it earlier, it is not the government's job to create businesses and create jobs. What we do is create the conditions for small businesses to grow and thrive. And I know how to do that. As you said, I've met a payroll. I've been on the receiving end of burdensome regulation. And I think actually having a person from the real world at the head of the government, I think, will make a big difference.
I lived in California until I was run out of town. for being too controversial in Santa Barbara. That's a different story for a different day. 40 on-air hours I was fired. That's a record in radio. But one of the things that is amazing about California is it's sad to me that people are leaving this great state. They're going to Arizona. They're going to Utah. They're going to Nevada. They're leaving because of the high burdensome regulation, taxation, you know. And I just always looked at it as the golden state, the state that would, you know, literally create jobs and opportunity. Go west, young man. Now it's go east, go back in the other direction.
You know, California in many ways is much of as a state of mind as it is a state, right? Everything was possible in California, and we are, you know, crushing the California dream, and people are moving to Colorado and Arizona and Texas and Utah because it's simpler and easier to do business.
Do you realize if I left New York and I moved to Florida or Texas, I would save 11, 12, 13% more of my income.
Yeah, well, that's the same true here. We have the highest, among the highest personal income tax rate, the highest corporate tax rate, among the highest sales tax rate. So in the end, we have to make California more competitive. And you know why this matters? Because in many ways, California is a microcosm of the United States.
Very
We're
much
so big. And where goes California goes the country. So the revolution has to start here. We have to take back California.
And by the way, I agree. Well said. Good luck to you, Meg Whitman. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And still a lot more to come live as we continue from the Reagan Library here in Simi Valley. We're in